Welcome. It is 7:30 in the evening in India and we are back again with our spotlight on G20. Do you know that the world is not on track to achieve the Zero Hunger UN Sustainable Development Goal by 2030? In fact, the number of people affected by hunger around the world is projected to exceed 840 million by 2030. We are seeing how conflicts and climate crisis are threatening food security around the world. On India at G20 today, we ask, does G20 presidency offer India a historic opportunity to share its successful journey of becoming a food surplus nation and experiences of helping nations through exports in times of crisis to address the present challenges to global food security? I'm Manu Bhattacharya. Let's get started with the top stories. In a telephonic conversation with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky wishes India a successful G20 presidency, thanks India for aid and UN support, calls for support for his 10-point peace plan. PM Modi reasserts his call for an immediate cessation of hostilities, says both sides should revert to dialogue and diplomacy to find a lasting solution. Civil 20 and Official Engagement Group of G20 announces its official schedule of engagements. It will hold its inception conference in Nagpur in March and its summit in Jaipur in July 2023. And as G20 President, India shares its Startup Report Card, announces Startup 20 as a new engagement group created to foster collaboration, spur innovation across borders and facilitate economies. The COVID-19 pandemic and developments in Ukraine have wreaked havoc on global supply chains, leading to a global food crisis that is evident in the form of global food shortages and food inflation. Instead of being bogged down by the crisis facing the world, India has come up with solutions for its own people and countries in the developing and underdeveloped world. Here's what India is doing amid the global food crisis and how it can leverage its presidency of G20 to further promote global food security, nutrition and food systems.
भारत के लिए यह अत्यंत शुभ संयोग है कि हम G20 की अध्यक्षता का दायित्व इस पवित्र द्वीप बाली में ग्रहण कर रहे हैं। भारत और बाली का बहुत ही प्राचीन रिश्ता है। एक्सेलेंसीज, भारत G20 का जिम्मा ऐसे समय ले रहा है जब विश्व जियोपॉलिटिकल तनावों, आर्थिक मंदी, खाद्यान्न और ऊर्जा की बढ़ी हुई कीमतों और महामारी के दीर्घकालीन दुष्प्रभावों से एक साथ जूझ रहा है। ऐसे समय विश्व G20 की तरफ आशा की नजर से देखता है। आज मैं ये आश्वासन देना चाहता हूं कि भारत की G20 अध्यक्षता इंक्लूसिव, एम्बिशियस, डिसिसिव और एक्शन ओरिएंटेड होगी।
A resolve expressed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the G20 summit in Bali in November to give a result-oriented direction to the efforts to combat the several crises confronting the world today, including food security. At the same summit, the PM addressed a dedicated session on food and energy security. On food security per se, he recalled how India provided food grains to the most vulnerable sections of society during the COVID-19 pandemic under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, while also supplying food grains to countries in need. Under that scheme, 5 kilograms of food grains are being provided each month to over 81 crore 35 lakh people free of cost, over and above their National Food Security Act entitlement of 5 kilograms per person per month at Rs 2 to 3 per kg. Under the scheme, over 11 crore 18 lakh metric tons of food grains have been allocated to all 36 Indian states and union territories so far. India also catered to global food demand in times of crisis. As per the Food Cooperation of India 2020 onwards, India exported over 1,21,000 metric tons of food grains as humanitarian food assistance to countries such as Afghanistan, Bhutan, Madagascar, Comoros, Mozambique and Timor-Leste. Not just that, as a result of India's initiative, the United Nations adopted a resolution with support from more than 70 nations across the globe to declare the year 2023 as the International Year of Millets. India is promoting natural farming and repopularizing nutritious and traditional food grains like millets for sustainable food security and sees millets as an answer to the global malnutrition and hunger challenge. As G20 President, India now has the opportunity to share with the world its experiences of catering to its own people and population in food distress around the world. In June 2021, G20 foreign ministers adopted the Matera Declaration in Matera, Italy, which asked the global community to step up efforts to contain the effects of the pandemic on lives and livelihoods, build inclusive and resilient food chains, and ensure adequate nutrition for all. It recognized that poverty alleviation, food security, and sustainable food systems are key to ending hunger, encouraging social cohesion and community development, and underlined the need for much higher investments for food security, nutrition, and sustainable food systems and territorial development. The Matera Declaration was welcomed by India, with the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar appreciating Italy for highlighting food security, saying the Matera Declaration reflects the Indian concern for the welfare of small and medium farmers, promoting local food cultures and recognizing agri-diversity. As G20 President, India has the opportunity to fast-track commitments in the declaration, which in part requires adaptation of agriculture and food systems to climate change as increased climate variability and extreme weather events impact agricultural output and in turn drive global hunger. The onus is now on India to lead the world towards resilient and sustainable food systems. Bureau Report, DD India.
And for perspective, we are being joined by Bishop Arajoli. He is a former representative and country director, World Food Programme, India, and Dr. Smita Sirohi. She is joint secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture. Such a pleasure to have the two distinguished guests on the special broadcast this evening. Mr. Parajoli, I'll begin with you. We are aware that currently the world is facing several crises. One of them is food insecurity. There are food shortages because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the developments in Ukraine, and there is food inflation, broadly speaking. But there are several other underlying crises as well, which you know very clearly about. So what is the scale of the food crisis currently confronting the world to begin with? Because first I would want to touch upon the crisis and then come to how India can offer solutions as G20 president.
First of all, good evening, and thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the coverage on this topic, which is really crucial, given India's leadership on G20 and the real difference India can really make in improving food security. The challenge facing the globe is, as you pointed out, the number of people with hunger is rising to nearly 850 million people, and then in addition, those who are in a critical situation are close to 350 million. The concern of rising hunger and famine and food insecurity are basically resulted from three factors. One is war, increased conflict. For example, Ukraine was a normal country, and in the last year or so, because of the war, several million people are displaced and suffering. Similarly, many other countries continue to face that situation. Syria, that is continuing, and in several countries in Africa. Somalia is facing famine. Pakistan because of flood and other concerns. So the other key element is, of course, the point you raised is the climate change. The reference to Pakistan in our neighborhood, but several other countries in Southern Africa, in Eastern Africa. So that's second factor. The third factor is price rise and an economic downturn because of war.
Right. Right, Mr. Parajoli, we are facing issues in the connection with you. I'll come to Dr. Sirohi now. Considering the several challenges, many of which are pointed out by Mr. Parajoli.
Please go ahead.
Yes, I'll come back to you, Mr. Parajoli, in a bit. Let me bring in Dr. Sirohi now. What would be India's priorities for agriculture and food security as G20 president, considering that you are looking after G20 in a sense in the agriculture ministry?
Thank you very much. I agree with my co-panelists that there are three major crises, three C's, which is to say are affecting the food security and nutrition: the COVID pandemic, cross-border conflict, and climate crisis. Now, this is the time when India has taken over the presidency of India. The presidency of G20. So now, in line with the motto which has been given, the theme of our presidency, that is one earth, one family and one future, the agriculture working group wants to charter a roadmap which would enhance the food security and nutrition of the global family, and also strengthen international cooperation for sustainable and nature friendly agriculture, and at the same time make agricultural livelihoods more equitable and advantageous to the producers. So with these three things, we are taking forward the presidency. We are steering through our agriculture track. There are major four priority areas which we would focus on. The first priority area is global food security and nutrition, but that is more of an overarching issue. We talk about the long term and the short term strategies, how to go ahead with it. The second theme which we talk about would be climate friendly, climate smart agriculture, so as to say. And the third one is, which is very close to our heart, which is because of the inclusivity, which is an important dimension of agriculture sector in India. So we talk about building of inclusive agriculture value chains and food systems. And last but not the least, the digital transformation in agriculture. So these are the four priority areas with which we want to move forward.
Right. Mr. Parajoli, we heard Dr. Sirohi point out the four priority areas for agriculture and food security under India's G20 presidency. Does India have a lot of varied experiences to offer in all these four spheres, and would the G20 be an opportunity to share those experiences with the world?
Indeed. In fact, the food security has been part of the agenda in the past under G20, but India really brings a practical part of it, and as an emerging economy and as a country with the largest population, both mixed. Those who are food insecure and secured. So I think several examples India has shown as a success story can be a lesson learned for many developing countries in the world, and which are not part of the G20 but can learn from India's experiences, and India's being a common chain between the emerging economies as well as the G20 member, and particularly India's success in from a food deficit to a food surplus country, including export. The reference to India joining hand to several countries in humanitarian aid, Afghanistan and several other countries, as well as commercial export, when the whole Ukraine crisis resulted in food deficit in many countries which used to have a commercial import. India jumped in and helped them in connecting the supply chain. But then going forward, as India played a crucial role in vaccine, for example, during COVID, same way I can see that in this context of rising food security concern, India can be a major source to bring that changes in agriculture. In fact, in many of my conversation with the food secretary and others in the Ministry of Agriculture, I have pointed this new opportunity India has as a part of, let's say, agri, Maitri, and expand that knowledge and success from India to many developing countries in Africa as well as in Asia.
Fair enough. We are aware, Dr. Sirohi, that India plans to serve millet dishes to G20 delegates in the future, and it was because of the initiative and the vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi that the UNGA adopted a resolution with overwhelming support of countries to have 2023 as the International Year of Millets. Now, millets is something which is good for the consumer, for the farmer, and for the climate as well, and it is very much part of the smart climate agriculture that you spoke of. Is that another practical way in which India has contributed to global food security already, much before India became the G20 president?
Certainly, this has been a very important initiative from our Honorable Prime Minister. We think that we are also going to take forward something like a millet research and awareness initiative through our G20 presidency. Maybe in 2015, if you would know, a wheat initiative was launched when there was a crisis, thinking that wheat will be one of the important crops which is going to be taken forward through research and development. Similarly, now we are trying to think that if millets can be taken forward in a big way, and maybe as an outcome of India's presidency, we could have a millet research and awareness initiative. So we are planning to have millet cuisine, as you already know, throughout all the meetings which are there. And in fact, the recent experience of serving the millet diet in the Parliament has been very, very encouraging, and there is a lot of appreciation towards what kind of dishes were served. So we want to take that forward in all the G20 meetings. Along with that, Ministry of Agriculture, in our agriculture working group, we are planning to have also a discussion, a global forum, so that we can bring together the various experts from the technical field who can discuss that what can be the ways in which we can also increase the shelf life of millets. So this is what is going to be our priority area. There are some countries in the G20 members who are traditionally not the consumers of millet. So to reach out to them is one of the major tasks, one of the major challenges. And yes, you are right that we have already set the tone, set the ball rolling with the International Year of Millets has already been declared. So this is going to be the priority of our presidency.
Fair enough. Coming now to the Matera Declaration of 2021 adopted by ministers of G20 countries in Matera, Italy in June 2021. Well, Mr. Parajoli, how can India further build on that? Because I remember that the External Affairs Minister had tweeted after the adoption of the declaration saying India welcomes it because it reflects the concerns of India vis-a-vis small and marginal farmers, vis-a-vis promoting local cultures and agricultural diversity.
As was pointed out, I think the reference to millet and diversifying crops adapting to climate change is an obvious choice. But apart from that, what India sets as an example is majority of the farmers in India are small and medium farmers, and helping them, creating an incentive for them to produce and supporting them is fundamental to countries like India's food security and many other countries in similar situation. So therefore, I think India's welcome and appreciation of the Matera Declaration is a right steps. And indeed, in the context of that, investing more in agriculture and also promoting sustainable food system and diversifying livelihood opportunities in the face of climate change are critical. And I think India has, has shown a success in that front in many ways, moving not only limiting on the wheat and rice, but also going to livestock and dairy and etc. And so therefore, adapting food system to a climate context and research and also the reference Dr. Smita Sirohi just mentioned about natural farming, so which is more climate and environmental friendly, is an important way forward, and India is in a best position to share that knowledge among the developing world and really help promote food security globally.
Mr. Parajoli, I would want to ask a supplementary question to you on what do you think are the most critical gaps currently in the food systems around the world which require urgent attention, which you would appeal the government of India to do, maybe in collaboration with the World Food Programme as the G20 president?
I would say, there are a number of things India can really set a good example. One is adapting to climate change, bringing this knowledge of diversifying food crop, producing crop in a difficult climate context. For example, with less water, to harsh temperature condition, as well as in a different type of crops. So this is one part of it. The second part of it is, I would say India can also join World Food Programme and in responding to what is begun already. Afghanistan World Food Programme and WFP join hand to support with 50,000 tons of wheat in a really critical time. And the third part can be is as we look for a sustainable food system or sustainable adaptable adapted climate context, then there could be a way to work together in helping farmers and to sustain going forward and be self-sufficient. So more towards that, one could work together across several countries.
Dr. Sirohi, will India be willing to take the suggestions of Mr. Parajoli forward as a G20 president? Also, how can we further promote South-South cooperation? After all, India has said that it will be the voice of the Global South, and the Global South is facing a food crisis.
Certainly, we would like to take forward the suggestions of WFP. In fact, not only WFP, but all the international organizations who are working in the field of to enhance global food security and nutrition. So in this context, it's not only the Matera Declaration which is important, but also what has been done by the Indonesian presidency. We should not forget that they have taken forward the presidency at a very difficult time, and there have some concrete outcomes which have emerged. In fact, if you see the leaders' declaration, the Bali Declaration, there is a lot of emphasis on global food security and nutrition.
Yes.
So we are, this is a legacy issue which we take forward from the other G20 countries. So we are willing to work together with all the international organizations, with all the G20 member countries. You came to the question of Global South. So that is something which Prime Minister has also said, that we want to lead, we want to show the way how we can have cooperation with Global South. So in that terms, that is where we say the smallholder farmers, which is an issue which is very important for the global south, linking the smallholder farmers in a more inclusive and efficient way, and the digital transformation. These are the two areas by which India can lead the global south. And especially in this context, I would like to mention the open digital platforms, which are very important for the agriculture sector. We have seen a successful case of India Stack, which has revolutionized the banking industry like anything. So similar kind of open access platforms, these will be something which is India's strength and where we can actually lead it. So these open digital networks, as I would say, they are very critical enablers for effective and scalable digital solutions. So here we foresee that how India can provide leadership to the global south in this context.
Fair enough. In fact, India's G20 priorities for agriculture and food security have also been thrashed out in consultation with the members of the global south or the developing world. Thank you so much, Dr. Sirohi and Mr. Parajoli, for joining us with your views on India at G20.
Thank you.
Let's move on now. Late last evening, in a video address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke about his telephonic conversation with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He wished India a fruitful presidency over G20 next year and said that India can be even more active in efforts to end aggression so that more can be done collectively for global stability in the coming year.
And one more thing, today I spoke with the Prime Minister of India. Next year it will be India that will preside over the G20. I wished Mr. Modi a fruitful presidency, and fruitful not for someone in particular but for everyone in the world who values peace. India can be more active in efforts to end aggression, so I hope that we can do more together for global stability in the coming years.
The Civil 20 or C20, an engagement group of the G20 released its logo and tagline for the year 2023 on 19th December this year. The logo of C20 has been released with the tagline, "You are the light." The Civil 20 engagement group takes up issues related to civil society organizations and development. For the next few months, discussions and seminars will be held at different places in India on the same, followed by the summit, and at the conclusion of that C20 summit, a policy document will be issued on the issues of status and development of citizen organizations. The C20 meetings will take place in Nagpur from 21st to 22nd of March and in Jaipur from 30th to 31st July next year. As G20 President, India has shared its Startup Report Card. It announced Startup 20 as a new engagement group created to foster collaboration, spur innovation across borders and facilitate economies in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals 2030. That's the report card in front of you. And with that, we come to the close of this edition of India at G20. Thanks for watching.
अरे वाह, लेजेंड की बैट, इससे तो मैं खेलूंगा। फ्यूचर बैटिंग लेजेंड बैट।
इसमें जिसका नाम लिखा है बैट उसी को मिलेगी।
अरे यार,
देखा, अगर इस पे मेरा नाम नहीं लिखा होता तो कितनी दिक्कत हो जाती। इसलिए आरबीआई कहता है बैंक अकाउंट हो या बैंक लॉकर, उसमें नॉमिनी का नाम जरूर दर्ज करें ताकि आपकी जमा पूंजी उसी को मिले जिसे आपने नामित किया है।
आरबीआई कहता है जानकार बनिए, सतर्क रहिए।
From ravages of war to excellence in sports, from end of an era to new generation of leadership, from crisis, protest and nature's fury to moments of hope and unity. This special edition of Global Scan takes you through events and stories of 2022 that transformed our world forever.
friends, welcome to a special presentation from the Machal sector of Jammu and Kashmir. The houses that you see behind me are in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, that part of India's Kashmir that is under the illegal occupation of Pakistan. And the stream that you see close to it is called the Machal stream. The line of control passes through the Machal stream. So we are extremely close to the line of control. In fact, we are the first and only media organization from around the world to have come so close to the LOC in the Machal sector. India's valiant soldiers are guarding the frontiers here from the enemy. These sentinels of Kashmir maintain the highest level of vigil round the clock, day in and day out, undaunted by the vagaries of nature and the complexities of conventional and proxy warfare. So how is one day in the life of a soldier of the Indian Army on the line of control? We show you next.
Unforgiving terrain or sub-zero temperatures, the Indian soldier defies all odds, and he stands undeterred in the defense of his motherland. The task at hand may vary, the demand of each day may vary, the time and place may vary, but what does not vary is his courage and determination to serve the nation.
राम जय हिंद। अभी मेरा सुबह का रूटीन स्टार्ट हो गया है। अभी सुबह हो गई है और मैं सबसे पहले बिस्तर फोल्ड करता हूँ।